G'day guys and gal, this isn't a video I wanted to make, but I have no choice. After reading both Fulgrim books back to back, yes they have the same title and yes it is confusing as they aren't even really in the same series, I've realized that Fulgrim is a super shit Primarch, arguably the shittest of them all. I, like I'm sure many of you, thought that Fulgrim was this super awesome, intelligent, light-hearted, and awesome character prior to him coming in contact with the Laer blade, making his fall to chaos the most tragic. But after spending a lot of time with him before, during, and after his encounter with the Laer blade, it's clear that he was just a shit bloke from the get-go. Insecure yet arrogant, incredibly fake, ego-driven, and a terrible judge of character. This really sucks because the pre-heresy Emperor's children are my favorite legion. Their colors are dope, and they have characters like Saul Tarvitz and the Giga Chad Rylanor. But sometimes the truth is harsh, and the reality is that their dad sucks donkey balls, both metaphorically and physically. But before we get into the well-deserved roast, a lot of people have been asking, Majorkill, what happened to the major minis? They've been unavailable for months. People thought GW finally threatened to sue me, but alas, I am Australian, hence a lawless creature, impossible to sue. Nah, the real reason for their absence is that I was doing a bunch of cool shit in the background to bring the Majorkill minis, now rebranded as Major Minis, up to the next level. I bought 10 new 3D printers, including the absolute behemoth Jupiters that aren't even available to the general public, contracted a team of 3D modelers, hired my first ever full-time employee, and moved all the 3D printing into an office. And as of this Monday, we're launching on an amazing new website, aimed at making the user experience way better. For starters, you can now purchase in your own local currency, so no more confusing Aussie dollary do conversions. We're doing this proper, guys and gal. All the models are back. Kitten, Shark Daddy, Lord of the Night. I'm even bringing back the discontinued chaotic Terminator Lord because I figured out how to fix the model. To round it off, a new model is also live as of Monday, the Lord of Blood. If he looks familiar, then shut up. He's an original Battle Mace 40 million character known for his desire to die and his talent for finger painting. Why am I telling you this now instead of Monday when everything actually launches? Well, I'm giving you guys and gal a chance to get your mini before the main launch. All you gotta do is slap your email in and bam, you'll have access to the minis before everyone else. This is good because even though this isn't a limited drop, there is only so many minis I've printed and can print per day. So if you wanna make sure you get your mini in a timely manner or before it sells out, then give us your email. I promise I won't spam you with trashy shit marketing emails that nobody gives a fuck about. I'm also doing a painting competition with a $10,000 prize pool. More details about that on Monday. Very exciting times. Today we'll discuss why Fulgrim is the worst Primarch, going over his lore to show the depths of his failures, why his other brothers were better, and his very twisted mindset that resulted in him now being a multi-titted sodomy snake. Oh, let's get into it. I acknowledge that Fulgrim had a rough start. When he took command of the Emperor's children, he only had like 200 Astartes alive due to the blight that infected their gene seed, and meant that a ton of their original number died of mega cancer, whilst many more were purged. It also meant that until the arrival of Fulgrim, the Emperor's children could not replenish their gene seed. So I understand how he might have felt a bit shit and insecure that whilst his brothers and their 100,000 strong legions were conquering world after world, he was trying to bring his legion back from the brink, and would often be used as a tool by the other legions until his legion was strong enough to strike out on its own. However, insecurity is never an excuse for being a piece of shit or fucking over others. That lesson applies to real life as well, so Fulgrim doesn't get a free pass here. Let's go way back before the Laer blade was a thing. Fulgrim's meeting with the Emperor. Fulgrim simped way too hard when he met his daddy. He cried, knelt, and probably would have sucked that holy cock if the Emperor let him. It wasn't the mutually respectful meeting like what happened with Vulcan, the Lion, or Ferris, three of the most loyal and steadfast Primarchs. From there, Fulgrim was very easy to goad by his brothers. He had paper-thick skin and hid his extremely volatile temper behind a constant fake smiling facade. Occasionally, the facade would slip, and the people who saw who he really was would always note how venomous he actually appeared. When he was finally able to strike out on his own, he did so because Leman Russ basically challenged him to conquer a planet without using overwhelming force. Leman would have barely thought of the challenge, more of a bit of banter, but Fulgrim became obsessed, taking the challenge to heart and making it his absolute priority no matter what. Hence, when his legion encountered a weak human-occupied world that was pretty happy to join the Imperium, he decided to overcomplicate the fuck out of the compliance, causing the death of thousands and nearly getting himself killed, purely because of his twisted desire to beat Leman's challenge. What he should have done, and what most of the other Primarchs generally did, was meet with the planet's leaders, convince them to join mankind's Imperium by showing its benefits, i.e. introducing Imperial tech into the civilization, then raising their impoverished up and offering their elite influence on the galactic scale. Most human worlds would happily accept this offer, and it's likely this one would have as well. If that failed, then usually an overwhelming show of force would suffice, showing the world that resistance just wasn't an option. Fulgrim did neither. He swore he would take the planet with just himself, 6 Astartes, and a few Imperial officials. He told them the Imperium was good and that they should join, but while he did that, he also belittled them and insulted them. While doing this, he also hid most of his legion's strength, so that the world thought they would have a chance against him. He then deliberately antagonized them further, pushing them to unite against him so he could kill all his enemies in one go. This crude rush strategy was because he swore he would achieve compliance within 1 month. When various sub-factions of the world reached out to him and wanted to join him, he would only accept them if they groveled before him. One such sub-faction, an elite order of philosopher swordsmen who were extremely insightful and intelligent, asked Fulgrim to replace the corrupt planetary leader and lift up their world to become a paradise. If he promised he would do this for them, they would give the world over to him without blood or violence. Fulgrim more or less told them to suck his dick, and that unless they submitted to his rule and complied, he would kill them all. What the fuck? Fulgrim then caused a global war, killing thousands of people, was betrayed by those he trusted due to how disgusted they were with him, and was baited and almost killed by a nuclear bomb due to his own arrogance. When compliance was achieved, he felt hollow. He was wrong to take this course of action, and even the Imperials thought he was an idiot. His relationship with his Astartes was also quite weird during this campaign. His main Lord Commander was a steadfast man. Fulgrim would banter with him, but when the commander bantered back, Fulgrim got all pissy and threatened him. He was also insecure about how his Space Marines viewed him, thinking he had to play this careful game to win their loyalty, when in reality they already adored him. Sometime after this, Fulgrim would make 2 more significant fuck-ups that would damn himself and his legion. First was his shocking judge of character. Fulgrim would promote and favour the absolute worst fucking Space Marines ever. Lord Commander Eidolon, one of the highest ranking Emperor's children, was an uppity little fuck that nobody liked. He was tactically retarded, petulant, whiny, extremely arrogant, and wildly incompetent. Nobody liked him, and he messed up often, yet he was Fulgrim's favourite son. Fabius Bayer was off from day one. I mean, the dude literally got an innocent, unblighted Astartes killed in his stead when he should have been the one to be culled. The entire Legion disliked Fabius. His experiments were twisted, his ideals didn't match that of any of his brothers, and he would always push the line of ethics. Yet Fulgrim raised them up as chief apothecary, and even approved Fabius's request to experiment on the Emperor's children Astartes using xeno-DNA. This was before Fulgrim got the Laer blade. Dude went against the Emperor's edict and ethics while his mind was clear of demonic taint. His first captain Julius was a boring little pussy. You look at other Legion's first captains, Abaddon of the Lunar Wolves, Ralderon of the Blood Angels, Sevatar of the Night Lords. All of them are living legends, their names known by all Astartes across the galaxy. Then there is Julius, a dude who basically fell to Slaanesh after listening to weird music for half an hour. A dude who ignored the corruption of his legion and actually embraced it. A dude whose name nobody knows because he's just a little bitch. This is who Fulgrim chose as his first captain, an insignificant man-child with no willpower. The list goes on. Incompetent, forgettable Astartes were raised up, whilst the real chads of the Emperor's children, like Sol Tarvitz, were suppressed. The second thing that Fulgrim really fucked up was his twisted pursuit of perfection that he instilled in his sons. He told them they should always strive to be perfect, but he never really taught them how or what it actually meant to be perfect. Some of his sons took his instruction well, accepting that true perfection is actually unachievable, as there is always ways to improve and better oneself. Hence, the pursuit of the perfect itself is flawed and imperfect. As such, this Space Marine would not strive for perfection, but to better themselves in all things. This is why characters like Solomon Demeter and Sol Tarvitz were such amazing Astartes. They would look to improve in mind, body, and spirit. However, for many more in the Legion, their pursuit of perfection was simply to become superior to the other legions, hence giving them this vanity-based superiority complex. Characters like Lucius and Eidolon were chief examples of these. Whilst Fulgrim's own personal pursuit of perfection would swing between these two sides of the coin, he never corrected the Astartes who thought perfection meant superiority, nor did he lift up or praise the Astartes who were using the pursuit of perfection to become better versions of themselves. Hence, he had created this confusing and mostly toxic culture within his legion, a cancer that was easily exploitable by Slaanesh. This pursuit of perfection was why Fulgrim allowed Fabius to plant corrupted Xeno DNA into his son's gene seed. He literally let Fabius create a new combat stim that was a variant of a drug the Laer used for recreational pleasure. Once again, this was all before he encountered the Laer blade. Fulgrim was a fucking dumbass. His commander ability was also pretty subpar and reckless. When he invaded the world of the Laer, he threw his Astartes into a meat grinder without even informing the rest of the expedition fleet until after the war had started. The Imperium actually recommended not attacking the Laer because their technology was so interesting. He ignored this and his legion suffered way more casualties than it should have if he had just taken his time and was more careful. When the Laer were conquered and he entered their main temple, he saw thousands of Laer having a hectic orgy, and he could literally feel the presence of the power of the demon within the sword at the heart of the temple. Yet he strode forth, stepped over the orgy, and picked up the sword without hesitation. What the fuck? The sword then began telling him bad shit, making him extremely pessimistic and angry. Fulgrim actually initially thought the words in his head were the works of an external psychic force trying to mess with his thoughts. Trying to mess with him as his thoughts didn't match what he should think. He was actually quite right about this. But then the arrogant bastard was like, actually nah, I'm too cool to manipulate. It's clearly just my subconscious speaking, and because I am perfect and right about everything, I will now listen to my subconscious, even if I don't actually agree with it. The subsequent corruption of Fulgrim then didn't take long. It wasn't like a multi-year process at all. When Guilliman had the crown of Slaanesh placed on his head, an artifact that could corrupt anyone who wore it, he resisted it, saw it for what it was, and then removed it from his head. Meanwhile, Fulgrim's sword tells him to do all this weird shit, and he just goes along with it. Eventually, he realized that the voice in his head wasn't his, but then he was just like, okay, lol, whatever. With the Laer blade affecting him, he got angry at Ferris for selfishly saving his life, angry at Ferris's banter that was designed to make Fulgrim less uptight. Then he killed one of his Lord Commanders because the man was so willful and morally good that Slaanesh couldn't corrupt him. At a similar time, he approached a master sculptor to pretend to get feedback on his own sculpts, but in reality, he just wanted validation. When he didn't get the validation he sought, he threw a hissy fit and later murdered the artist out of jealousy. A lot of people say, hey, what about when Fulgrim was able to realize his folly during his fight with Ferris and regret everything? That little redemption wasn't even Fulgrim's willpower overcoming the demon. It was the demon showing Fulgrim how much of a fuckwit he had been in order to break Fulgrim's will and allow the demon to possess his body. When Fulgrim finally broke free of the demon's influence, he acted worse than the demon did, deciding that being a slut was mint, even though the last time we saw into Fulgrim's thought process, he regretted everything and wished he stayed loyalist. As a demon prince, Fulgrim was somehow even more pathetic, being a super unreliable asset for the traitor legions, abandoning the siege halfway through to go kill and torture civilians, and then just buggering off. He has done pretty much nothing for the traitor legions since, literally just jerking off with sandpaper on his pleasure planet. The one time he came into real space, R'hllor clapped his bitch ass. He is a one-dimensional, universally despised and mocked excuse of a Primarch who was a pitiful loser from almost day one. I actually read the Lion's Primarch book just after reading both of Fulgrim's, and holy shit, it's like night and day. Fulgrim being this wanker who nobody respects, and then the Lion, whose instinct was legendary, who was super secure and a competent leader. Fulgrim barely took over a weak human world after making a number of mistakes. The Lion tracked down a mega powerful god tier Xeno race that had killed trillions of humans and annihilated them. Straight up guys and gal, Fulgrim is the worst Primarch, worse even than Angron. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where there is not only a ton of nude cosplay photos, but also a boatload of battle-based 40 million hentai. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more shit content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.